regular pie crust today. The first step to that is to cut up your butter and your shortening and put it in the refrigerator. I like to make mine in the mixer, which means I also take my paddle and put it in the freezer so that everything is cold, because as soon as it starts to heat up, the butter and the shortening start to melt, and then you have not flaky pie crust, but a gelatinous mess. So this is I'm taking a half of a cup of butter flavored shortening, and I'm cutting it into pieces, and then we're going to slide it into the refrigerator. And then I have 4 sticks or 2 cups of butter that we're going to stick in a regular bowl. Because we add them to our flour and sugar mixture at different times, we put them in separate bowls so that they don't get mixed up. And you can cut these individually. I like to do 4 at a time because it speeds up the process. We're going to stick these in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes, and then we'll be back to mix up pie crust. Alright, so now we're going to make our regular pie crust. I have 5 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of salt. And we're just going to stir that up slightly. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then we are going to put all of our butter, which has been cut and put back in the refrigerator, so it's ice cold, into it. One of the things I do is put my hand in and stir it around so that every little piece gets flour around it. That way they don't clump up together into one giant mess. But you don't want to do that for too long, because the heat from your hands will heat up the butter and it'll melt and you'll be left with another mess. Then I have my paddle, which has been in the freezer. I'm going to put it here. And turn it on. What I'm looking for is the paddle to break up the butter into pea-sized pieces. And once that happens, we're going to add the shortening to the mixture. Sometimes you might have to get the pieces that are stuck in the paddle out. Just stick your hand in there. That's why I wear gloves. Start again. A few more pieces because they're just too big. And the problem with letting the mixer go on for too long is that friction causes heat. So the friction from the paddle is going to cause heat to melt your butter. And you can't have melted butter and make your pie crust. It's got to be in its solid form, just in tinier pieces. So you can cut them in smaller pieces before you start, or we can just keep an eye on it like I do. Alright, so it looks like we're ready. If you look, there aren't a lot of big chunks in there. It's mostly pea-sized pieces. And now we're going to get the shortening and add it. Alright, so I have our shortening. It is a half a cup. And we are going to add it in. And turn the mixer back on until we have more pea-sized pieces. And then we're going to add ice water to it. It is very important that the water be ice water and not plain old tap water or just water you got really cold. It has got to be ice water or this is not going to work. So at the beginning I put ice in a cup and some water. We're going to need 2/3 cup, and then if we can't get it to form a dough, we just keep adding it a tablespoon by tablespoon until we get it to the right consistency. Okay. So I got a couple of big chunks of butter. We're going to move those around and start the mixer again. So as a little girl we did this all by hand. Now I have my fancy mixer. And I like to use it as much as possible. Okay, so can you see pea size. It's mostly just crumbs. Now we are going to take 2/3. One of the things that I do is put my hand over the ice to keep the ice in. Okay. This is 2/3 cup. We're going to drizzle it over the top of our pie crust. Turn it on. And you got to give it a chance to really incorporate. Otherwise, if you add too much water, you can't bake that water out, and so it just gets kind of stuck in. And you end up with a soggy pie crust and not that buttery, flaky pie crust that we're looking for. Okay. Now, when it starts to form a ball like this, and it's stuck together and it pulls away from the sides of the mixer, then it's ready. So we're going to pull it out. We're going to wrap it in cellophane, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator. And it needs to be in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. I've discovered that 2 hours is the best time frame for me, but you can leave it in there for up to 2 weeks.